Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers Report, we're going to take a gander at the Niners playoff picture. And on today's show, we'll take a look at the Niners' chances of making the playoffs with percentage points and betting odds, how San Francisco can move up the standings, and of course, take a look at the NFC Playoff Standings as well. And we're going to hit on note number 3 here and shift gears to the NFC playoff picture going into this week's action. Philadelphia Eagles, coming off the bye week, do have a tall test in front of them. Super Bowl 57 rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs. They are the number 1 seed at 8-1. Right behind them, though, the Detroit Lions, who kicked that last-second field goal at the expiration of the clock against the Chargers to move to 7-2. Niners ended their 3-game losing streak, sitting pretty right now at 6-3. They own the tiebreaker over the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC West as the leaders in that division. New Orleans Saints 5-5 right now. That is the worst division in football, is the NFC South. So even though they lost last week, still leading the division at an even 5-5. You have the Seattle Seahawks at 6-3, as I noted. Dallas Cowboys all the way in that 6th seed because Philadelphia is leading the NFC with that 8-1 record, best record in the NFL. And then how about the Minnesota Vikings? What a story. Josh Dobbs has come in relief the last 2 games, and he's won them. And the Vikings have won 5 games in a row. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming to Levi Stadium on Sunday, have a lot to play for. Still in the hunt at 4-5. Other teams in the mix, Washington and Atlanta at 4-6. With that, we look at the Niners' playoff chances here. The Niners are plus 500 to win the Super Bowl. They have a 16.7% chance of winning and bringing back their 6th Lombardi trophy. Those 5-1 odds, the best odds to win the Super Bowl among all teams in the NFL. San Francisco has a 99% chance of making the playoffs. So if they don't make the playoffs, that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is an unmitigated disaster. San Francisco also minus 550 to win the NFC West. So they are the favorites to win this division. You look at the Niners' schedule here. This is a tough stretch. There's no doubt about it. Winnable game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then a short week on the road against the Seahawks. Thanksgiving night, we'll be back for another watch party. Prime time. Raucous atmosphere. Difficult place to play. An opportunity for Seattle fans to get the liver lathered up all throughout the day. Stuff the gut with a lot of food. It will be wild and a lot to play for regardless of what happens this week because the division partially on the line at Seattle in Week 12 and then again Week 14, sandwiched in between a rematch of the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 13. You even find a way to go 2-2 here. I think that that's a win. 3-1, you're sitting golden because the last 4 games, 3 of them extremely winnable. You go on the road to take on the Cardinals. You beat them easily earlier this year. Week 16, Ravens have been playing great ball. That's a Monday Night Football matchup. Lamar Jackson's been a little bit off, but the defense is terrific. You go across the country to play a feisty Commanders team, and by Week 18, are the Rams going to mail it in? Potentially. They've really been struggling over the last month and a half. So I think San Francisco has a golden opportunity awaiting them. And like we said, 99% chance of making the playoffs. The competition this week, these are the teams that the Niners really are competing with and against for playoff positioning, and in Seattle's case, to win this division. The Cowboys here, minus 11 against the Panthers this week. The Lions, minus 10 at home against the Bears. The 49ers, 11-point favorites against the Bucs. Seahawks lost Week 1 against the Rams. Now they are 1-point favorites on the road in Inglewood, California. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, 2-point underdogs against the Chiefs. Philadelphia, the only underdog on this list. So really, a lot of the teams that you're competing with and against, you're not getting a lot of help this week, but we do know crazy things happen across the NFL. Man, I can't talk. Type F Chase in the comment section if you feel that way. Take a guess. What record will the Niners finish with? They are 6-3 right now. I still think 12, 13 games is completely plausible, and it's completely doable. Get those record predictions in the comment section right now. Today's 49ers Report is sponsored by Marine Layer. You can get 15% off at marinelayer.com/chatsports. I'm rocking some of their athletic, comfortable leisure wear on today's show. They have golf polos that are really, really nice with that stretchable fabric. They also have some shirts that you can wear out to a date if you're looking to go to a steakhouse or a nice fancy speakeasy. Anything that you want to spice your wardrobe up with, Marine Layer has it. Best news, San Francisco-based company right here. So go to marinelayer.com/chatsports and find your new favorite fits. You've seen me wear this on the show. I like wearing their shorts. You can't see that because you can only see my upper half, but they're awesome, believe me. And I wear these products all the time. Gear for fall, gear for winter, gear for the spring and summer. They have it all. See for yourself, marinelayer.com/chatsports. Now to your questions. Love hearing from the faithful every single week. Sean, a $100 super chat. You're a legend, my guy. I love your honest analysis. Thank you. He has concerns on the offensive line. People are saying the Niners are back. I'm not sure. I think they caught the Jaguars off guard. Your thoughts on the next 4 games? So, thoughts on the next 4 games. I kind of alluded to that a little bit earlier during the playoff picture. Facing Seattle 2 times in 3 weeks, that's really difficult. Are the Niners the more talented team? No doubt about it. But Seattle has always posed a tall test for San Francisco. I mean, Pete Carroll owned Jim Harbaugh. He owned Kyle Shanahan up until last year when the Niners got the monkey off their back and they were able to pull off the trifecta sweep against Seattle. But 2 times in 3 weeks against a familiar opponent that always has a good understanding of what you want to do and what you like to do, that is not easy. I've continued to say it all year, Sean. Offensive line is an issue. Said it in the preseason. That can derail your season, and right now, it very well could. I do think that Jaguars victory, though, I'll disagree with you there. That showed us the Niners team that San Francisco is capable of being, and the Niners team that we saw in the first 5 weeks of the year when they got off to that 5-0 start. Anthony, $2 super chat. The defensive line is good. Weak offensive line could be the end of everything. And I don't think that people are hitting the panic button by being concerned about the offensive line. Look, when Kyle Shanahan had a tight end blocking Hassan Reddick, that ended the Niners' hopes of making it to the Super Bowl. Bad offensive line play can end your hopes of trying to win a championship, because if you can't pass protect and you can't block in the run game and you can't do anything offensively, or you're going up against a really good team, you have to come back, which the Niners have proven to struggle with doing so far this year, and you're unable to come back because you can't block up front, that could be the glue that unglues you. Mr. Block Ice checking in here. If you know the history of Baker Mayfield and Bosa, now Chase Baker in Oklahoma beat the Ohio State and planted the Oklahoma flag on the Ohio State field. Both played that game. I didn't forget, Baker is done. So it was Oklahoma, not Oklahoma State. I can see why casual college football fans would get that wrong. But you know what's interesting, Mr. Block Ice, is that Nick Bosa said that he buried the hatch from 2019. Or from, what was that, 2018? Yeah, Bosa was drafted in 2019. He said he buried the hatch, and he said that he has no beef with Baker Mayfield any longer. But that's not going to stop Nick Bosa from trying to up his sack totals after a slow start to the year. I'll tell you that. Drippy Sports, do you think a Xaven Howard trade will benefit the Niners? Would not happen until after this year. I think bringing in another solid corner would obviously do you well. We'll see what happens with Ambry Thomas. Hopefully Kyle Shanahan, Steve Wilks, they decide to go with Ambry Thomas on the outside, with Amador Lenoir in the slot, with Mooney Ward on the outside as well. That is an affordable, and it's a secondary that I think is good enough if your pass rush is getting home. The problem with Xaven Howard, he's extremely expensive. Jonathan Lamont Page, do you think that we will get creative with larger wide receivers as far as a coverage standpoint, Ward is a problem with his hands. Thoughts? That is a little bit of an issue, Jonathan Lamont Page, and appreciate you for the shout-outs on Twitter when you gave us a shout-out for surpassing 100,000 subscribers last week. The Bucs do have larger wide receivers as far as height with a guy like Mike Evans, but Chris Godwin is also a very physical wide receiver. And the Niners have struggled with coming down with some of those 50-50 balls. Honestly, this is a matchup where maybe it serves you well to keep Deommodore Lenoir on the inside because he's a little bit shorter, and you go with Ambry Thomas on that outside. I think that you can mirror the safety over to one side, whether it's Hufanga or Gibson, to limit some of those big plays and those 50-50 balls, because if that wide receiver knows in the back of their head that Hufanga is coming for a big stick, they might think otherwise. Matt Keller, do you think the defensive line finally found their rhythm and can keep it going? Also, I like seeing Randy Gregory rotated in more. What I liked was Randy Gregory and Chase Young lining up on the interior. D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh did that a lot. That's what we deemed the NASCAR package for San Francisco. When they would have their edge rushers, like Bosa, on the perimeter, Samson Ebukam out there, but then they would experiment with a Jordan Willis, a Arden Key, a Charles Omenihu playing defensive tackle. And what that allows you and what that gives the defense is an edge. Faster players going up against slower offensive linemen, and they're able to beat them at the point of attack. And you don't have to do those stunts. You can just beat them with quickness. Or you want to run some of those stunts on the interior. You do have that speed element there on top of having Nick Bosa and Chase Young on the outside. So there were a couple of wrinkles that I really liked in that Jacksonville game. Less of those twists and stunts, more of just trying to win your matchups at the point of attack. 5-man fronts, something else that I really, really liked. Pop Chase Young onto the interior. See what he's able to do. Just give the offense different looks. And with that, I thought the defensive line found their rhythm, and hopefully that continues. Val Brooks, our pretty lady here on the Niners Report. Am I the only one worried about Jake Moody? I'm still worried about Jake Moody. There's no doubt about that. In a pressure situation, a Jake Moody miss could be the difference between moving on in a playoff game, winning a game down the stretch, your season ending, or your season continuing. And what I never understood, 1, drafting a kicker in the 3rd round, 2, with a Super Bowl contending team, you're moving on from Robbie Gould when he's been automatic and he's literally never missed in the playoffs. So if a clutch kick is a scenario that comes to reality in a clutch situation, and we're in the playoffs and Jake Moody is trotting out to win the game, Niner fans everywhere are going to be losing it, and I'm going to be going down to one knee, and I'm going to be praying to the football gods that Jake Moody does not miss it. Thanks to everybody who sent in questions as well as your super chats. You're all real ones. Don't forget to subscribe, and we hope to see you on Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for our watch party.